Hi, I'm Abby from Ratings.com. Today we'll be reviewing the 65-inch Samsung QN90C. This model is part of Samsung's 2023 QLED lineup, sitting between the QN85C and the QN95C. The QN90C is available in a wide range of sizes from 43 to 85 inches, and while most sizes perform the same, the 43 and 50-inch models are different than the larger sizes. They have a different panel type and a slightly higher refresh rate, but we'll get into that later. Like other Samsung products, the full model code, or even just the model name, changes between regions and retailers. At Costco, it's available as the QN90CD, and this model performs mostly the same but has different built-in speakers and a longer warranty. You can also find the QN91, 92, 93, and 94C models throughout the world, each with their own small differences, but they still perform similarly. Overall, this is an impressive high-end TV that offers mini LED backlighting, great picture quality, and gaming features. It has pretty much everything you'd want in a premium LED TV. But is it a TV you should buy? We'll answer that soon, but before we get there, let's look at the design. The QN90C has a simple yet premium design. It's well built with plastic and metal materials, and the thin bezels frame the screen nicely. It comes with a stand that has a hexagon base, but because it's small, the TV wobbles easily, so you need to place it on a stable table to make sure it doesn't wobble so much. The neck of the stand has tracks to put your cables, and it also has a cover to hide those wires. Looking at the back of the TV, it has etched lines, and the inputs are set into the back housing. They're a bit hard to reach, especially if you have it wall-mounted. It offers a bunch of different inputs, including a tuner that supports ATSC 3.0, so you can watch over-the-air channels in 4K in the US. There are 4 HDMI ports, and all of them offer HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, meaning you can use any of these ports to connect gaming consoles or PCs. One of them is also the eARC port you need to use for audio pass-through to a soundbar or receiver. It supports pass-through for Dolby formats, but not DTS, which is typical for Samsung, but might be disappointing for physical media lovers as many Blu-rays use DTS. That said, you'll probably want to use a proper sound setup though. The built-in speakers aren't anything special. Even if Samsung advertises object tracking sound and other features, they don't provide a good sound experience. Of course, it's fine if you want to listen to shows with basic dialogue, but like any other TV, it doesn't produce much bass, and there's compression at max volume. So, good quality speakers would provide a better home theater experience. Now that we know what's on the outside, let's turn this thing on. The included remote is small and standard for Samsung TVs. It has quick access buttons to popular streaming services, and there's a button to bring up the voice control. It supports Alexa and Bixby voice assistants, which you can use to control other smart devices in your house, even those from Google. There's also a mic built into the TV for hands-free voice control, but if you're concerned about privacy, there's also a switch to turn it off. The TV turns on pretty quickly, and the first thing you'll see is the homepage of the Tizen Smart Platform, which is very easy to use. You get all your pinned apps and suggested content in one place. Like all other smart platforms, there are ads though, and there's no way to completely turn them off. Besides that, the interface runs smoothly, and there are a ton of apps you can download too. One thing you'll notice when looking at the TV is its glossy screen coating. This coating does a fantastic job of reducing glare from bright sources, even if you place it opposite a bright window. Plus, unlike other Samsung TVs, including the older QN90B, it doesn't have a rainbow-like effect with bright sources shining on the screen, which is great. As you walk around the TV, the image remains pretty consistent whether you're viewing it from dead center or the sides. Sure, colors start to look washed out and fade at really wide angles, but for the most part, it's a good choice for wide seating areas. This is because it uses an IPS panel on the 55 to 85-inch models. This is different on the 43 and 50-inch models though, as they have VA panels and have worse viewing angles. Unlike other Samsung TVs, those small models don't have an ultra viewing angle layer, so they aren't good for wide seating areas. But if you have a gigantic 10-person couch, a 43-inch TV might look a little small in comparison anyway. The type of panel used also affects the contrast between the variants. The VA panel on the smaller sizes naturally has a high contrast, but the larger sizes have a low native contrast ratio because of their IPS panels. But this only matters if you go into the service menu to turn off the local dimming feature. Otherwise, it's always on, so the TV displays deep blacks next to bright highlights, which is ideal for watching content in dark rooms. The local dimming uses mini LED backlighting, and while the 65-inch model has 720 dimming zones, the number of zones depends on the size. It performs well as there isn't too much blooming around bright objects, but it's still present, and you can see it in certain content, like with subtitles. The algorithm, however, doesn't keep up well with fast-moving objects. It's noticeable when an object moves between each of the dimming zones since the zones are slow to turn on and off, so there are often halos behind fast-moving objects. You can see an example of this when moving a mouse cursor on a dark background. While its high contrast is excellent for watching content in dark rooms, you need high peak brightness if you want to watch content in bright rooms. Luckily, that's the case here, as it gets extremely bright in SDR. Although large areas of bright colors are dimmer than smaller areas, the TV still gets very bright and you won't have any issues using it in a well-lit room. It even maintains that high peak brightness in HDR, especially with small highlights, so bright objects really pop against the rest of the image. It also has fantastic PQ EOTF tracking, so it displays HDR content the way the creator intended, as nothing is too bright or too dark. Unlike some past Samsung TVs, the EOTF tracking doesn't change according to different test window sizes, so Samsung isn't optimizing the TV for reviewers like us. While we're on the topic of HDR, it displays a wide range of colors with good tone mapping. Some saturated colors aren't displayed properly, especially in the wider Rec 2020 color space, but other than that, images are lifelike. It also has excellent color volume, displaying bright and dark colors very well. HDR content looks vivid and realistic, and combined with its high contrast ratio, it delivers impressive picture quality for watching HDR movies. That said, the TV only supports the HDR10 Plus Advanced HDR format and not the common Dolby Vision format. This means that content that's only available in Dolby Vision is limited to the more basic HDR10 format, which is pretty disappointing for a high-end TV. But it's typical of a Samsung TV, so if you bought one in the past and weren't bothered by this, it likely won't bother you again. If you want to watch content in SDR, you'll be happy to know it has impressive accuracy there too. Colors and the white balance are accurate, and the color temperature is very close to the target. However, gamma is off, so all content is too dark. Besides that, images are lifelike in both SDR and HDR. Alright, now that we know it has great picture quality, we know you can't take advantage of this without good image processing. It uses Samsung's Neural Quantum Processor 4K, which is the same processor that other high-end Samsung TVs use. It upscales low-resolution content well, which is important for watching content from older sources like DVDs or even cable boxes. However, it isn't as good as some premium TVs from other brands, as there's still some blurriness around images and text. Unfortunately, it doesn't smooth out content well from low-quality sources, like if you use streaming apps that use compression. There's macro blocking, and it loses details, which is disappointing for streaming content, like if you tend to binge your favorite shows from Netflix or Disney+. Despite this issue, there's minimal banding and gradients in HDR content. Besides banding with blacks and grays, most gradients look great. This is beneficial for watching content with scenes that have shades of a similar color, like a sunset. Overall, while the processing is good enough to provide a good overall viewing experience, it just isn't as good as other high-end TVs. This is pretty expected though, as Samsung is generally behind the champions of processing, Sony. Alright, besides knowing how it performs for watching content, I bet you're wondering how it performs for gaming. To start, the picture quality is a bit worse in game mode because there's some more blooming around bright objects, but you still get the same deep blacks and high peak brightness. As for the gaming features, the 55-inch and larger sizes have a 120Hz refresh rate, but the 43 and 50-inch models have a slightly higher 144Hz refresh rate. The TV supports all common types of VRR, like FreeSync, G-Sync, and HDMI Forum VRR, meaning it reduces screen tearing with any type of source, even if you have the latest graphics card. If you're going to connect a gaming PC, you'll also be happy to know that it displays proper Chroma 444 with any resolution. This is useful for reading proper text when going through gaming menus or browsing the web. The TV is also good if you want to connect a gaming console. Thanks to its HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, it can take full advantage of both the PS5 and Xbox Series X, as there aren't any issues. Of course, being compatible with PCs and consoles is one thing, but it's also important to have good gaming performance. Luckily, that's the case here, as it has a great response time, and while there's a bit of blur with fast-moving objects, it's not that distracting. The TV does have an optional backlight strobing feature to reduce persistence blur, but it creates image duplication. Besides that, the TV also has low input lag for a responsive feel while gaming. It doesn't increase even at lower refresh rates, which is great. So, now that we know how it performs, this brings us to the main question. Should you buy this TV? The Samsung QN90C is an impressive TV that checks off quite a few boxes. It displays deep blacks and bright highlights for great picture quality while watching movies, either in SDR or HDR. The wide viewing angles are useful if you have a wide seating area, and it also offers excellent gaming performance with a fast response time and low input lag. The 144Hz refresh rate on the smaller sizes is a nice touch if you want those for PC gaming. Compared to the other 2023 Samsung models, it's a slight upgrade over the QN85C as it gets brighter, but it isn't a significant improvement either. As for the higher-end QN95C, that TV has a VA panel with a higher contrast for deeper blacks, and it has a slightly higher 144Hz refresh rate with all of its sizes. So it's up to you if those features are worth the price difference. One of the biggest downsides of the QN90C is that its processing just isn't what you'd expect for such a premium TV. If you stream a lot of content or even watch lower resolution shows, it's important to get something with good processing like the Sony X93L. The better processing results in better upscaling and less macro blocking with low quality content. The Samsung TV still has a few advantages like its wider viewing angles, better reflection handling, and lower input lag for gaming. So if you watch shows and movies, especially in Dolby Vision, go for the Sony. But if you play games, then the Samsung is the better choice. If you find the Samsung too expensive and want a better value option, check out the Hisense U8K. It has a VA panel that displays even deeper blacks, and it also gets brighter. It even has a higher refresh rate as it goes up to 240Hz with a 1080p resolution. That said, the Samsung still has better motion handling, and it also has wider viewing angles, so it takes the cake in those areas. The Hisense is the better option to get the best bang for your buck, but the Samsung still has a few advantages if you don't mind paying more. Well, that's all for the Samsung QN90C. If you're interested in reading more, check out the written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Abby from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs.